value, we then do a backpropagation. No? So, we know that this is number 2 and it's not number 3. No? So, mali to, di ba? So, mali to, mali to. So, lahat na na-connect sa kanya, i-update niya pabalik. Sabi niya, oy, mali ka, you have a big error, you should update your weights. So, mag-update to mga weights na to. Tapos, at the same time, si 2, dahil mababa siya, mali ka, dapat mataas ang value mo, you should also update your weight. So, yung mga na-connect dito, mag-update na naman ulit yan. And then, that propagates back, no, all the way. No? So, and then, when you feed in thousands and thousands of labeled samples, between 2 to between 0 to 9, eventually, di padala ka ng padala, di update lang to ng update. At some point, matututunan niya lahat ng proper behavior, kumbaga magno-normalize na to na nade-detect na niya accurately. Di ba? So, para lang siyang bata. Di ba? Nung start, wala pang alam, tuturuan mo, pagalitan mo, sabihin mo, yan, 1 plus 1 equals ganyan. So, eventually, it starts to form the weights, the values of the weights here. No? So, dito, ganito nag-work more or less yung neural network. We will not get into the math anymore, wala tayong time. Pero sa mga estudyante dyan, kung gusto yung matutunan, yan, pwede tingnan yung mga gradient descent. Yan yung basically, kailangan nyo matuto ng calculus. Kasi kailangan mo ng calculus para mag-compute ng gradient descent. But that's, basically how neural network works. Alright? So, ito na. Dito na tayo ngayon sa attention. So, hopefully, you get a brief idea paano nag-work ang neural net. Ngayong gabi, mga kapatid, ang pag-uusapan natin is attention is all you need. Ito yung mother of all papers. So ito ang ating magiging Biblia ngayong gabi. And we will talk about all the components here and show you the code. No? So sinend na yata ni Kata yung link. You can look through the attention. This is the paper of Google way back 2017. Dito na nagsimula lahat yun. Okay, so feel free to read or you can just listen. I will explain most of the important parts of this paper. Okay, mali. Ayan. So, may kita nyo dyan sa ating Biblia ay ito yung transformer model. No? So, let's try to break it down. Ano ba yung mga components ng transformer model? We start off with the one at the bottom, which is what we call the embedding. So, embedding is essentially the numerical representation ng input natin. So, ito yung pinakaunang layer. We will discuss that in a while. After that, you have what we call as the positional encoding. So, yung positional encoding, ang trabaho lang nito ay alamin niya ang position ng mga words. Kasi, it turns out, the sequence of the words are important. Then, you have what we call as the encoder, yung nasa left-hand side, and the decoder, which is on the right-hand side. So, they perform different functions, but essentially, pag tinignan yung laman nila, pare-pareho sila. Meron silang self-attention or multi-headed attention. So, it's composed of multiple multi-headed attention sa loob. Again, we will go through the details one by one. Then, there is what we call as the layer norm, which is, ang trabaho lang naman niya is mag-normalize. So, kung familiar kayo sa neural network, kailangan po siya para ma-fit yung data to a certain acceptable range. Otherwise, hindi siya magpe-perform ng maayos. Okay? And then, in the end, we will have our projection layer. So, ito po yung nagpo-project na ng output. Okay? So, ang example nito, kung yung projection layer, di ba kanina, doon sa neural network natin, ang output mo ay 0 to 9, you have 10 nodes doon sa ating output layer. Kung sa projection layer naman, ito yung number of yung size ng vocabulary, number of words. Kasi ang ina-output natin dito is basically the next word. So ang goal ng buong transformer is that given an input, what should be the next output. So yun yung trabaho niya actually, no? Pero I guess complex yung architecture in order to properly predict the next word. All right. So in summary, ito yung breakdown natin. You have your input, positional encoding. So sa ngayon, mahalaga lang ay alam natin na okay, ang transformer model, ito ang kanyang composition, di ba? Meron na yung mga position encoding, as I explained earlier. Meron tayong encoder and decoder. Now, one thing to clear up is this diagram is not ChatGPT. So kung meron kayo nakikita sa YouTube or saan man na nagsasabi na ito ay ChatGPT, hindi po ito ChatGPT. This is the transformer model, primarily because there are different architectures of the transformer. No, GPT is, if you look at this slide, no, so different architectures or different models have different architecture. Patingin natin dito sa slide on the right-hand side, Claude and Gemini is an encoder-decoder architecture. Ibig sabihin, ang architecture niya, meron siyang encoder, meron siyang decoder. So, you can say that Claude and Gemini is this diagram. But, OpenAI is decoder only. So, it only works, lahat ng layers ng architecture niya ay decoder lang. Dito lang siya, puro decoder lang siya. No, si Llama, ganun din yung design nila. So, ang trabaho lang nila, ang difference kasi ng encoder and decoder is, una, yung output ng encoder, papasok siya dito kay decoder, di ba? Siyempre, encode mo muna. Pag na-encode mo, pasok mo dito para ma-decode siya. Yung decoder only, ang ginagawa naman niya, minamask niya yung next word. Ibig sabihin, tatakpan niya yung next word para hulaan ng model kung ano yung next word na dapat lumabas. So, magkaiba sila ng architecture. No? So, for now, I think the most important thing I'd like to, to tell you is that, different models, yan, iba-ibang architecture na may encoder, decoder, meron decoder only, meron ding encoder only. And each of these architecture has parang certain strengths kung saan sila magpe-perform, where they will perform better. So, obviously, kung may encoder, decoder, dyan magaling yung translation, di ba? Kasi encode mo English, lalabas mo Japanese. So, yun yung, no? Pag conversational naman, decoder. So, it's mostly more on predicting the next word. No? So, each of them, will perform better. Okay? Ayan. So, if you want to know more, nandyan din sa materials yung mga link. You'll be able to see the different papers about the BERT, BART, and yung sa OpenAI na architecture. Okay, so let's go through each of the layers one by one. We'll start with the input embedding. No? So, tokens and embedding. So, ano ba itong mga to? First thing to understand if you're doing natural language processing is that you have to split the sentences into tokens. Tokens can be treated more or less as the words. Parang gusto mo split into words, but it's not strictly word basis. So, patingin natin itong picture dito sa baba. No, so, anong nangyayari is yung fine is one token. Yung tuning na split into two tokens. Okay, is fine for all yan. Na-split na nila ng tama. No? So, most of them per word na. So, generally, pwede mo sabihin per word yung pag-split, but strictly speaking, technically, may mga iba't ibang algorithms pa na ini-implement to tokenize certain sentences. At the same time, each word will have a certain numerical value para pwede mo siyang encode, tapos pwede mo siyang i-decode pabalik. Okay, so yun yung tinutukoy na token. If you're familiar with accessing yung mga API ng OpenAI, ng Gemini, Claude, merong mga token limit, di ba? Context limit, 100,000 words lang, 16,000 tokens lang. No? So yun. Ito yung tinutukoy nito, itong pag-split na to. So that's what you call tokenization. Now, different models have different tokenizers. No? Sabi nga ng kapatid natin na si ChatGPT, ayan yung sabi niya, no? Si BERT, si GPT, si Roberta, iba-iba ang ginagamit nila. So, doon tayo sa mga mas popular, si ChatGPT, ang gamit niya ay BPE, Byte Pair Encoding, no? Habang si Claude naman, may sarili siyang tokenizer, si Gemini, sentence piece. So iba-iba ang tokenizer nila. So, ibig sabihin, pag tinokenize mo doon sa isa, doon na siya. Diba? Hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin doon sa iba. Ayan, marami ring types of tokenizers. Ayan, so we'll move on to the embeddings. I'd like to request everyone, please click on the Mentimeter link. Hopefully, mapagana natin ng maayos para medyo mas naman ang ating discussion. I'd like everyone to please answer the first, paano natin gagawin to? The first question. Yan, pakiclick lang po yung link doon sa ating Mentimeter. Tapos, tama ba? Nag-display ba? Let me know kung may issue kasi hindi ko alam paano gawin 'to. So, the question is, where would you put the word apple? 'Di ba? Given in this picture, saan natin ilalagay yung word na apple? Sige lang po, sagot lang po kayo. We can spend a few seconds more. Obvious naman, no? Siguro naman. Siguro naman napakalinaw ng sagot, no? Kasi makita natin from here, no, you have the basketball, you have the group of fruits, you have the group of houses, and then the group of vehicles. So definitely, ang sagot ay letter C. Buti namang walang nagkamali. Okay. The next is, where would you put the word cow in this case? Sige lang, mag-isip-isip po muna ulit sa mga nakasagot. Meron nagsagot ng A, may sagot ng C. Pag-isipan po muna. Oh, suddenly, hindi na siya ganun kadali. Meron pa bang gustong humabol? So, may kita natin dito na actually, the correct answer is letter C. Kasi, the distance between the puppy and the dog and the calf and the cow actually matters. No? So the difference, hindi lang gaano sila kalapit, but at the same time, nasaan yung direction at gaano sila kalayo will have different meaning already. Will give different meaning already. No? So, let's skip this part. So, we'll resume dun sa slide natin. Maraming salamat sa inyong mga sagot. I hope that gave you kind of a perspective, about yung words in two dimension. Primarily because that's essentially how embedding works. No, it's able to represent um, meanings of words, 'di ba? Just by looking at yung mga values nila. So hopefully I'll play this 1 minute video from 3 Blue 1 Brown which explains this in much better. Sana let me know kung
What is
hindi nyo
Hitler
marinig yung
plus
audio.
Italy minus Germany? This came up in a full video that I did dissecting what happens inside large language models. You see, when tools like ChatGPT process text, the first thing they do is subdivide it into little pieces, and they associate each piece with a large vector, some long list of numbers. This is called an embedding of that piece of text, and it's helpful to imagine these embedding vectors as directions in some very high dimensional space, even if we struggle to concretely visualize anything more than 3 dimensions. Models that learn to embed words as vectors like this often encode meaning into the directions of this high dimensional space. If you take the difference between the embeddings of man and woman, and you add that to the embedding of uncle, you get a vector very close to the embedding of aunt. If you take the embedding of Italy minus Germany, and you add it to the embedding of Hitler, you get something very close to the embedding of Mussolini. It's as if the model learned to associate some directions in this high dimensional space with Italianness and others with World War II Axis leaders.
Ayun. So basically that summarizes how embedding works, no? So again, yung nakita kasi natin earlier,
And you add it.
Yung nakita kasi natin dito, this is a two-dimensional 'di ba, space. And we're able to represent yun nga, calf and cow. And then as mentioned earlier by 3 Blue 1 Brown, even something as complex as Mussolini and Hitler technically kayang i-represent by the embeddings. No? So kung sipin mo, kung Philippines yan, tapos dinedak mo rin, sinong lalabas? I don't know, but it gives some kind of intuition like that. The primary reason is that kanina yung tiningnan natin is only two dimension, di ba? You look at Apple 5506, no? But technically, if you look at the large language models we have now, the embedding size is actually 1,500. No, so it's not only 2, but it's 1,500. So imagine nyo na lang how hindi na natin kaya i-visualize yun. No? But there's 1,500 dimensions. And, hindi natin ma-imagine in our mind or visualize what is, how complex 1,500 dimension is. But if two digits can represent this, if two numbers can represent already Apple, how much more detailed can you represent with thousands and thousands of values, no, in the embeddings. So ganun ka complex or ganun ka fine-tuned, ka-detailed yung kayang i-represent ng isang embedding. No? So yung purpose ng embedding is essentially to convert the words into their numerical representation. And that numerical representation has certain meaning in the word space. 'Di ba? Tulad ng pinakita natin sa, sa cow at sa dog. Alright? And then, the same concept ng embeddings can be applied to sentences. No? So, it can have more complex meanings like, hello, how are you? Hindi lang siya doon sa tokens, but it can also be applied to sentences. No? So, each sentence can have a specific embedding that would then represent certain meaning to that embedding. Alright? So let's move on. So we are now done on the first part, which is embeddings. No? So we talk about tokens and embeddings. We now move to positional encoding. Ano nga bang purpose ng positional encoding? As you know, the large language model generally works by predicting the next token. Ang idea lang nito, parang Google autocomplete. If you type certain words, just huhulaan niya kung ano yung most likely next word. And yan. So, tulad nitong nandito, swimming in the pool, ito yung probability, 0.92, against swimming in the mountain, 0.33. That is because in the vast collection of all the words na available sa internet, most likely, may makita kang swimming in the pool than swimming in the mountain. Mas mababa yung probability nila. No? So, if you're able to collect all the words, all the documents, corpus of language in the internet, no, you will find na, similar to here, strong winds has a high probability, but you do not normally call tall winds. No? So, ibig sabihin, we'll be able to predict the next word by looking at the probabilities, how much they occurred in the past. But language is complex. Unfortunately, hindi siya ganun kasimple. So if you look at happy not sad and sad not happy, they all have the same words, but they have totally different meaning. In the same manner, if you look at the interest rate increase this year against I have no interest in buying this car, the word interest, no, dahil do sa mga katabi niyang words, will have a totally different context. Diba? So I have no ito. The interest rate increased this year, so obviously this refers to a percent interest sa bangko or interest sa utang, no? Etong interest naman is something na gusto mong bilhin, no? Kasi nakabit siya sa buying this car, parang ganun. So it's not that simple. No? So yun yung basically ang sabi lang nito is that the sequence of words are important. Which is why we have positional encoding. Positional encoding addresses this by understanding where the positions of each word is. No? So, paano ginawa yung positional encoding? Nandito yan sa ating Biblia. Attention is all you need. Sabi mga kapatid, basahin natin ang formula. Nako, napaka-komplikado. Wag na sabi. But basically, sabi nito is that it uses this formula, sine and cosine formula, no? Because the sine and cosine is able to represent relative positions, yung mga positions ng mga iba't ibang words depending on gaano kahaba yung words na yun, no? So, kumbaga, ang maganda dito is it falls within 1 to -1 and yet kayang maging unique yung mga values nila depende kung gaano kadami yung words at kung nasaan yung word na yun. No? So yung mga matatalino na taga-Google, they come up with this formula. Makita mo naman sa nakasulat, no? Sabi niya, ano ba to? Yan, they chose because it can easily attend to relative positions and then it also allows the model a longer context. No? So ibig sabihin, kaya niyang mas mahaba tapos mas unique yung kanyang na-represent. That's why it's able to come up with this formula. So similarly, if you look at how it is computed, if you use for I am robot and then you compute for the sine and the cosine, magiging unique yung mga values na lalabas dito. So what happens is that when you have the positional encoding, when you have the positional encoding, what you do is that you add the word embedding, di ba? Kanina, yung first step natin, kinuha mo yung embedding ng isang word, idadagdag mo ngayon yung kanilang positional encoding. Pag inad mo sila pareho, meron ka na ngayong representation ng word plus kung nasaan yung word na yun. So, yun yung trabaho nito, no? So what they did is that when they, add both of them, you can now uniquely distinguish the meaning of the word at the same time the position of where they occur doon sa sa buong sentence. Okay, so we now move to the coding part. For some of you, kung mas naintindihan nyo via code, doon tayo sa unang link natin sa Python Notebook, Tokens and Embeddings. I will ito na yata yun. Okay, so dito may kita natin kung paano gawin yung embeddings saka positional encoding. Alright, so the first thing we did is to use tick token. Bakit tick token? Well, yung tick token ang tokenizer ng OpenAI. So we include tokenizer of OpenAI and then tinawag lang natin siya. No? So ito yung example. Tinokenize lang natin yung isang sentence. The sentence is, hello world, let's test tick token. We use this GPT-2 Turbo 3.5. Ayan na, pinrint niya. So ito yung output niya ngayon. No? Token 990. So, 'di ba, sabi natin kanina, yung example natin, each token hatiin niya yung word, no? So in this case, more or less naka-split din siya per word. So ito yung standard tokenizer ni OpenAI. Again, kung ibang model 'yan, you might need to use different tokenizers. In this case, we will be using PyTorch to simulate yung code na ginawa to simulate yung document. Nung attention is all you need, using PyTorch. Sa PyTorch kasi, built-in na ang mga neural network. You can just define that through either an embedding or a linear layer. Nandun na siya. So, in this part, basically what we are doing is this is just a class definition. Dinefine lang natin. Meron tayong input embedding. And yung input embedding natin, merong size, merong vocabulary. No, so yung vocabulary, yan yung number of words, di ba? In the whole universe. Sabi natin, well, at least sa universe nitong kinocode natin ay there's 10,000 types, 10,000 words combination, and then we have 512 na embedding size. No, so meron tayong embedding size na 10,000 by 512. No? And then, itong next na ginagawa natin, ito na yung portion na ano nga ba to? I-initialize lang to ng values para doon sa ng mga initial values niya. No? So, square root of the size of the model. No? So ito ngayon yung input embedding. So basically, ang nangyari nito ay ito yung class definition, dito natin siya in-initialize. Sabi natin, gusto mo mag-create ng input with values from 0 to 100. Ang size niya ay 16, 350. Tapos, pinasok na natin yung initialize na natin yung input embedding. So, if you run that, you'll get a better intuition, like yung mga set of values niya. This is not yet connected sa words or anything. So, we are just defining the structure. In this example, yung input natin is just a random number from 0 to 100. Eventually, magiging embedding ng mga tokens and words. But for now, ang ginagawa lang natin is binuo lang natin yung definition, tapos nag-create tayo ng sample input embedding. Okay, so meron tayong question dito. Given na ang ating batch size ay 16, sequence length as 350, ano yung magiging shape ng ating input embeddings. Try nyo sagutan. Hindi ko alam kung naintindihan nyo. Sana naintindihan nyo. Balik tayo sa ating Mentimeter. Is it 16 by 350, 16 by 350 by 512, or 16 by 512? So, ang kailangan nating tandaan, as a clue, no, yung sequence length, ito yung number of words. Tapos, for each word, nagkakaroon siya ng embedding, tulad nung pinakita natin kanina. So, ano kaya ang magiging output niya? 16 by 350, pareho nung input sequence. 16 by 350 by 512 or 16 by 512. Meron pa bang gustong mag-attempt? Sumagot? Sige. So, ang sagot ay 16 by 350 by 512. So, kung naalala nyo kanina, yung isang, pwede ba natin balikan? Yung isang word, di ba, yung tokens, yung isang word, ito yung size, ano yun? Ito yung size ng, ito yung sequence length. So, sequence length of 350, ibig sabihin, you have 350 words from 1 to 350. Ito yung input natin. Tapos, so for each of the word, magkakaroon siya ng 512 numerical values. No, so, ang pinasok mo is ito. Ang magiging output mo ay, technically, ano lang siya, parang 350 by 512. No? So, yun yung size ng ating input embedding. Basically, minumultiply mo lang siya kung ano yung size ng embeddings. Okay? Bakit ko tinanong yun? Kung nag-neural network po kasi kayo, ang pinaka common intuition in understanding the architecture is by understanding the shape of the layers. No? So, ilang layers ba to? 32 nodes, 62 nodes, 4 layers, parang ganun. No? So, when you change the values, when you change the size, the shape, nag-iiba yung behavior ng network. No? So, most of the time, pag may mga discussion, parang ang tinitingnan na lang is yung mga sizes nila and how they are connected to each other. All right, so that's for the, sorry, hindi pa tayo tapos sa code, di ba? Tapos ba tayo sa code? So meron pa lang tayo yung embeddings, di ba? So ang ginawa natin, may pinasok na word, in-initialize lang natin yung embedding. After that, gusto natin kunin yung positional encoding. So yung positional encoding, sabi natin kanina, is being computed using the sine and cosine formula. So nandito lang po yun, kinode lang natin siya dito. No? So may kita natin, nilagyan ko naman ng comment for each part of that. But basically, ito yung formula na yan. Yung torch, A range, float, tapos mat, the logarithm of 10,000 over D model. Tapos dito, nagkaroon tayo ng sine saka cosine. So basically, na-alternate natin yung sine sa cosine. So kung titingnan nyo, this part of the code, yan, this part of the code is essentially parang yun yung nandoon sa paano na siya na-define doon sa paper. So kung titingnan natin, wait lang. Ito na pala. So you can see here, itong equation na to, this is how position encoding is being done. It's signed with what the position is. No? So given to, ito yung nasa paper. Tinranslate lang natin sa code into this. No? So nagkaroon tayo ngayon ng positional encoding ng mga values. Tapos, ang gagawin niya dito ngayon is yung positional encoding, i-add natin dun sa normal na embedding. Di ba kanina meron tayong embedding, meron 512 values, meron tayong positional encoding, nandun yung position ng words, i-add natin siya. So ito na yan. X equals X plus the positional encoding. Alright? Hopefully, that is clear. If not, meron pa tayong activity mamaya para mas ma-clarify. No? So, at the very least we talk about embedding, we talk about the position encoding and how they are being added together. No? And then, kung ano yung result nila, that will be fed into the encoder and decoder na. So, papasok tayo ngayon dun sa self-attention and multi-headed attention. So, yung multi-headed attention, ang ginagawa nito, self-attention muna tayo. Yung self-attention, ang problem naman na ina-address niya is, the statements like this, no? Because each of the word needs to pay attention to the words around it. So, ito yung assumption, no? So, in order for no to have meaning, kailangan mag-pay attention siya din sa gilid. Ano ba yung no? No interest, di ba? So, mas malamang, the word no should have stronger attention to interest. No? And then for each of the word, nagpe-pay attention siya sa lahat ng mga words na katabi niya. Okay? So, I have no interest in politics, ganun din. No? So, itong interest naman will have different meaning kasi nandito yung politics. Tapos, mahalaga rin yung word na no kasi doon siya kakabit. As compared to the bank's interest rate rises, no? So, mag-pay attention naman to doon sa bank. So, again, magiging iba yung meaning nila. You can extend it to a point na you can have this complete sentence. I have no interest in hearing about the rising interest rates of the bank. Diba? So, itong interest na to will have different meaning against itong rising interest rate dito sa baba. Diba? So, ibig sabihin, ito, nag-pay attention differently, in a different manner, to the attention dito sa baba. No? So, that is the purpose, kaya kailangan ng self-attention. Because for each of the words, it needs to pay attention to the words before and after it. At, ayun naman, mga kapatid, basa. Ayon sa ating libro, ang pag-compute ng attention, gagamit daw tayo ng query key values. So, ano ba tong query key values? From the word itself, you have a query. Diba? I-query mo siya, gagamitin mo yung key para makapag-query ka, tapos kukunin mo yung value. So, the easiest analogy I can think of, I'm sure alam niyo to, is sa database. Diba? Kung may database ka, meron kang query, perform yung query, i-execute mo doon sa key, makukuha mo yung value. No? So, tapos, in-applyan nila ng softmax para makikita nila na kung ano yung must kailangan na i-pay attention. No? So, minumultiply nila yan. So, tingnan natin naman ulit, ano ba ang nakasaad? Nakasulat, no? So, dito, sinasabi natin, ito nga yung formula. Ayan, meron naman tayong question ulit. Hopefully, mas may sense tong sagutan. No? So, meron tayong tanong ulit. Balik tayo doon sa Mentimeter. Ito ang diagram on the right-hand side. Diba? A, B, C, D. Ito yung equation on the left side. Softmax. You have Q multiplied by the transpose of K. Tapos, dinivide natin siya by the number of dimensions. Tapos, minultiply natin siya by the values. So, tingnan natin ngayon doon sa, nasaan na yun? Alin ba dito ang wait. Okay. Ayan. Alin ba dito ang nire-represent ng operation na K multiplied by K, Q multiplied by K transpose? Feel free to go to Mentimeter. Sagutan nyo. It's either A, B, C, or D. Nandun naman yung label sa gilid. Ano bang pinagsasabi nito? Lumabas ba? Walang sumasagot. Wala kasi ako makita sa screen dahil Yung Mentimeter, pa-click na lang po ulit yung link kanina. Wait, i-send natin. So you have to go there in your Okay, may mga nakita na akong sagot, no? So, tama. Very good. Very good, kids. Okay. So, ayan. So, yung formula na query multiplied by K transpose, ito yung letter A. Ito yung matrix multiplication dito sa baba. Let's move on to the next question. Alin naman dito yung nag-ooperate ng square root of the dimension? Is it A, B, C, or D? Okay, may mga nagsagot na. Ayan na, bumibilis na ang ating mga answers. Ayan. So, ang sagot po ay B. No? So, makikita natin yung, kasi, ang ginawa natin is yung query multiplied by the key, tapos divide natin by the size, the square root of the dimension. So, that's the scale function. In-scale natin siya. Third question, saan naman dito? Uy, hala. Anyway, move on na tayo. Yung softmax, saan naman siya dyan? Ayan naman, obvious na, di ba? Nasaan yung softmax ginagawa? Sige lang po. Ayan, ang bilis na sumagot. Thank you guys. No? So I think you're getting the intuition already, no? Now we are able to interpret the formula of the softmax nung K multiplied by Q multiplied by K transpose, tapos in-scale natin, and then multiply natin sa V. No? And then the last question, which represents the operation multiplying with V, I guess that is obvious na. Ayan, sige. Thank you. All right, so let's continue. No? So dito ngayon, we are now able to get some level of intuition. Ano bang ginagawa nitong equation na to? No? So, ang ginagawa nito pala is multiply mo yung K sa Q, and then scale mo sila, kunin mo yung softmax, later po, didiscuss din natin kung ano yung mga yan, and then you do the matrix multiplication. To help you, hopefully makabuild certain intuition bakit natin kailangan i-multiply. Very common kasi ito sa mga recommender system. When you multiply the query and the key, and if both have same value, tumataas yung value nila. Kung nagtutugma yung mga values nila, kasi kung halimbawa, yung query mo, Q mo ay 0, yung K mo 1,000, value wala, di ba? Yung, ano kasi to what do you call this? It's an embedding, it's a vector, no? So it's a large set of numbers. So if you multiply 0 by 1,000, it's still 0. Diba? But if you multiply 1 by 10, at least magkaka-value siya ng 10. No? So, nangyayari, yung mga nagmamatch na mga numbers ay nagkakaroon ng higher number. Kaya natin siya gustong i-matrix multiply. Yung scaling naman, just to keep it within a certain range, so in-scale natin, and then yung softmax, ganun din, it falls that within a certain range. So, lalabas ngayon dito yung query multiplied by key, lalabas yung mga values na nag-match more or less sa keys. No? Ito yung mga, given this query, ito yung mga keys na malamang nag-match sa'yo. Tapos, i-multiply mo ulit siya sa V. So, makukuha mo na ngayon yung value. Ito na ngayon yung magiging attention score. No? So, ito yung magiging output mo sa attention score. In terms of the code, similarly, di ba, kanina, pinilap natin yung equation to the diagram. Similarly, kaya nating i-plot itong equation to the code. So makita natin dito, there is attention score is equal to query times keys transpose. No? Tapos yung weights naman ay ginawa natin the softmax, yung score. Tapos dinivide natin by the shape. Tapos raised to 0.5, which is technically a square root. No? So then we now have the weights and then you multiply it by the values. So, diba? So interpret lang natin itong equation basically dito. No? So that is the attention. Ngayon, Dahil nga, sabi natin, one token should represent multiple attention. Hindi lang naman kasi yung interest, hindi lang naman no ang kailangan niya i-pay attention. Kailangan niyang i-pay attention din yung hearing, kailangan din niyang i-pay attention yung eye. No? So now, you need multi-head attention. No? So for each head, it represents or it signifies meaning, a different meaning, a different context. No? Kasi pag nag-form ka ng isang sentence, maraming meaning yan inside. No? So yun yung pinipay attention. So kaya merong multi-headed attention. No? So ayan, sabi dito, multi-head attention allows the model to jointly attend from different representation at from different position. So iba-iba na ngayon yung pinipay attention niya. So yun yung purpose ng multi-head attention. Now if you combine, ito na rin nga yun ulit, basically, you're able to pay attention to different meaning, similar na to. And ngayon, yung size ng attention head, nag-iiba-iba sila. Sabi ng, compare natin si ChatGPT, ito, sabi niya, GPT-2 has 12 attention heads, si Medium, 16. If you look at GPT-3, 96. Si GPT-4, hindi na alam kasi hindi na siya open. Close na yung GPT-4 architecture, so wala nang may alam ano yung composition nila. No? But GPT-3, at the very least, alam natin, has 96 attention heads. So if you're given one sentence, it can pay attention to at least 96 different meanings for each word doon sa sa sentence na yon. So the more attention, syempre, the more mas fine-grained yung kaya niyang i-represent. No, so if you combine everything all together, what you will get is you'll have yung kanina, the attention, 'di ba? Tapos i-combine mo yung maraming attention, nagkaroon ka ng multi-head attention. Yan na ngayon yung isang block dito sa multi-head attention. Gets ba? I hope na explain ko siya na you get some certain intuition. No? So actually, the entire transformer architecture, the two key important portion is actually the positional encoding and the multi-head attention. Yan yung, kasi before that, ang mga common na neural network, yung mga convolutional neural network, recurrent network, LSTM, some of the components here, no, the feed forward, the norm, mga softmax, embeddings, meron na yan before pa. Ang unique na kakaiba, unique na kakaiba pa, na ginawa nila dito is the positional encoding and the multi-head attention. No, nawala dun sa iba, which made ChatGPT much more intelligent than the prior. No, so if you are in this research space, you will notice na a lot more research are done now on the transformer architecture. Mas less na yung mga recurrent network, LSTM, mas popular na ngayon. No, kasi this has been proven to be more popular than other architectures. Okay? Ayan. So now, I suggest you go to this BB Wycroft. And if you go to this site, you should now have a better intuition kasi ito at least we're able to visualize how yung architecture nung transformer. No? So if we start dito and then you just click on space, makita natin these are your input tokens. Ito yung mga values nila. Magkakaroon siya ng token. Mako-convert siya sa kanyang embedding. Itong nasa left side yung kanyang embedding. Meron siyang positional encoding. Sabi natin kanina, ito yung position. Tapos ina-add siya together. So tingnan natin. Let's click on continue. Ano ba nangyari? Continue again. Ayan, tinokenize niya. At ayan, kinombine na niya yung input embedding. So nag-combine yung token, combine yung positional encoding. Pag-combine nila ngayon doon, ayan na. No, so ito na yung attention. Each of these is an attention and then you have multi-headed attention. Yan. So, ayan na. So, nag-execute na sila lahat doon. Yun na yung composition natin ng query key values na nagmo-multiply. In fact, can we actually go up? Try natin. Pag inakyat natin dito, ayan, no? Kita nyo, meron siyang query, key, and values, no? So, multiply niya yan. Tulad nung in-explain natin kanina. No? So, and then, ang daming layers. Di ba? Ang daming, ang lalim niyan. And this is only one head. No? So, if you have multi-head, there's a lot more in there. Okay, so you can play around with this just to get, a better intuition how we start from embedding to positional encoding to attention to multi-headed attention. So hanggang ngayon, nandun tayo sa multi-headed attention. From this point, kung may mga tanong, please feel free to post your questions. Kung wala naman kayong tanong, you can play around with this BBY Croft na website. May tanong, huwag po kayong mahiya. Either i-type nyo lang yung message or better yet, mag-raise na lang kayo ng hand. Oh, I'm sorry. You speak only English. Pasensya na. I intentionally try to speak in Tagalog because a lot of the materials online are speaking in English. So I want this to be a more Filipino version. But I'm okay. I'll try to speak more English. Hopefully you're able to follow. But if you have any questions, feel free to post it there. May tanong po ba? You can just raise your hand. We have a few minutes. Kung wala naman, if you can play around with the GPT visualization. Can we also do transformer for images, videos, and audios po? Yes, you can also do the same. In fact, it's actually the same. Nagkakaiba lang sila on how the embedding is being generated. No? So, videos will have its own embeddings. Si audio can have its own embeddings. Ganun lang din yung concept nila. So, I think it's a different architecture also, but generally, it follows the same. You have your masking also, because if you look at, for example, videos, diba? So for the videos, it's also a sequence of images, no? So meron ka ring mga next token similar sa pixels, no? So hirap magtanong, pwede Yun lang, no? Pasensya na po because the topic is highly theoretical. Trip ko lang mag-discuss ng more theoretical. If you want more application type of topics, I have a lot more materials. Yung mga RAG, agents, more how you apply this into business. But pagbigyan nyo na ako. Yun. So, nagkakaiba lang yan, Alpha, with embeddings. No? So, they will have different embeddings. But generally, transformer is also being used on other model. I think you already know na yung sa image, 'di ba? May mga VLLM. So, it's practically the same set of architecture. Iba lang yung embeddings na naproproduce nila. Okay? Sige, ganito na lang. Maybe show, I don't know, some sign, okay, kung naintindihan. If you like it, say you like it. If there's a portion that you had difficulty, let me know. Yes, maybe emojis would be fine already. Just like to get an idea kung nakakasunod ba. Transformer getting replaced soon? Baka hindi pa. There is, if you want to try out, so, ang lupit ang tanong ni Alpha. Ikaw yung tag-FEU, di ba? Anyway, If you want to learn more advanced than transformer, there is what we call as the Molmo. No, it's actually following the transformer then, except that it's designed to be more efficient. May mga lookup vectors siyang ginagamit so that it's computationally efficient. No, the challenge we're having with transformer now is that if when you process, there's a lot of heads, there's a lot of attention, so it takes a long time, di ba? So it's computationally expensive, no? Which is why there are newer models, newer architectures that are coming up, like the Molmo. Yung DeepSeek naman still follows the transformer architecture. Hindi sila dito hindi sila dito nag vary, not in this layer, but more on the post training na, no? Supervised fine tuning and reinforcement learning. I think I have a couple of slides about that later. Not extensive, but just some intuition lang about about the DeepSeek. No? Kasi yun na nga. So the trend is moving towards more efficient transformer models, large language models that can hopefully run on our own PC, so we do not have to keep on sending mga messages, to OpenAI or anywhere, di ba? Only in your local PC. And in fact, that's what my company is doing. So we work more on small language models, which is why it's important that we get to understand how this the entire architecture work, no? So that we can actually implement this on local environments. Okay. I hope nakakasunod pa kayo. So let's continue. A few concepts that are important, especially if you deal with neural networks. If you do neural networks na, you maybe have an idea already what these concepts are, but if not, no, these are also part of the transformer architecture. You have your layer norm, yung dropout, and the residuals. And ito yon, no? Itong add norm, itong mga connection dito, that's what the dropout, layer norm, and residuals are for. No, so the layer norm, basically, the job of the layer norm, just like in classical machine learning, is to normalize the values. Bakit? Because you do not want very large values, you do not want very small values, because you'll not be able to converge to the solution. No? So the idea is to keep the values within an acceptable range. And that's why you perform normalization. No? So now layer norm is one type of normalization that's being done on neural network. Ano lang siya, one layer. No? So I guess yung important lang is the purpose of normalization is to prevent extreme values from happening. No? So the simplest is the min max, for example. No? Min max normalization. So if you have very large values, very small values, you keep everything all between 0 to 1. And that's how that's a standard, diba? Standard normalization. No? That's the reason why we need to normalize, to get more controlled number of values. So that's the purpose of layer norm. The other is the dropout. Again, if you are familiar with at least classical machine learning, you know that there is overfitting. No? So to prevent overfitting of the neural networks, you do a dropout. What happens in a dropout is that if these are your layers, you intentionally drop some portion of your network, no? And it turns out if you do that, you'll be able to prevent overfitting. The model will perform better. No? So if you want to develop your own foundational model, you can look into updating or changing the dropout rate. No? So pwede siya, I think, not sure kung nasa code natin, but the standard dropout I've seen is around 0.3. No? So some uses 0.1. So you can play around with that. No? So in this case, if this is like 0.4 na dropout, or maybe 0.5, because it will remove about half of all the nodes. It will deactivate half of the nodes. So that's the purpose of the dropout. It's basically to prevent the models from overfitting. It turns out that if the neural network forgets some of the information, it perform better. No? That explains why human makakalimutin din ang mga tao. No, because I guess our brain is not really designed to remember everything. That's why we become smarter. If you remember everything, maybe we will not be as smart as that. No, so ganun din yung in-apply nila dito. They try to drop out. In fact, there are newer architectures din. Ito kasi, this one is designed on, the dropout has been there for a while, even before Transformer. Parang, if you do neural network, mga recurrent neural network, or other types of neural network, there is dropout already. No? But there are new studies that are being done saying na if the model forgets, it has a better chance of being smarter. So it's possible that if that succeeds, no, it's possible na yung mga large language models that we'll be working on in the future has a tendency to forget, just like humans. Okay, so that's for the dropout, and then you have what they call as the residual. Now, the residual naman is essentially what you do, you skip. No, you skip. So you have certain activation functions here. You will skip certain layers. So the purpose of the residual is essentially to avoid yung vanishing gradient. Vanishing gradient happens when you have small number multiplied by small number multiplied by small number multiplied by small number until it becomes negligible. It becomes zero. So you do not want that. So one way to go around with that is to do the residual. Basically, you will skip. So you will skip hindi na siya magiging small number because kinary over mo yung values dun. Again, residuals is a standard approach na sa neural network. No? So, if you look at the entire architecture ni Transformer, you will see that there are certain components where dropouts, layer norms, and residual is being used. So dropout, inside the attention head, there is already the dropout. Later, we'll see that in the code where the dropout happens. And then, in here, you have the normalization. Diba? These are the layer norms. And then, there's arrow na nag-skip. Diba? If you notice, similar here. There's an arrow that skip. That's what you call the residual connection. No, so they actually exist somewhere in the architecture. No? So I guess the researchers or the authors realize na if we do this, you do a residual, you get a better performance of the model. A lot of the design is actually more on empirical evidence already. No, they will try adding this. They will try changing the norm. They will try using a different types of normalization. They will try adding more multi-head attention. All the different types of combination, and then they will just measure the performance of the model afterwards. So that's how they're able to come up with this. Sabi nga nila, DeepSeek is able to do a very good model because they have a systematic way of doing the experimentation. Diba? If a certain type of test results to a better test, then baka yun yung direction na tinetake nila. No? But a lot of these are actually driven by running actual tests and measuring the performance. All right. Okay, so now we move on to the second part of our coding, which is where we do the layer norm and the attention heads. So this is the code for layer norm attention head. This is just a continuation of the code we have earlier. So if you look at the first part, this is exactly the same as the embedding. Diba? You have your input embedding, you have the precisional encoding. After that, you will have your layer normalization. So dito, makita na natin yung code ng layer normalization, how layer normalization is done. Basically, it does a scaling, and then, there is a gamma. Ito kasi yung formula ng normalization. You get the standard deviation, You have the epsilon and the beta. Anyone has idea kung ano yung purpose ng epsilon? No? Nada? Sirit? No? So, if you look at the formula, this is actually a division operation. No? So, sometimes the standard deviation can be 0 and beta can be 0. No? So, if this is 0 and 0, you will get a divide by 0 error. So, the purpose of epsilon, it's a very small number just to avoid divide by 0. All right, so this is layer normalization. Again, this portion is just what you call this? The definition, di ba? The class definition. Dito tayo nag-perform ng layer normalization. So if we run the layer normalization, let's just look at the example. No, you have very large values, low values, and then you have very big values. You run the layer norm. What you will get is a values between negative, well, somewhere between -1 to 1. No? So, ito yung before normalization, 2.5, 4, 3.2. Ito yung after normalization. The values is smaller. So, yun lang yung ginagawa nito. It keeps the values within your control. You then have layer normalization, residual connection. So, as we mentioned, residual connection, you just add. Ini-skip mo lang naman yung di ba? Ini-skip mo lang siya. So, what happens is that you just add that aside from the actual computation. So, this is example of the residual connection. You then have the feed-forward network. Ang trabaho ni feed-forward network is to feed forward. No? So, trabaho nito is, to convert the value so that it can be processed by the next step, by the next layer. So, it's kind of a projection layer also, so that it can project to the next layer. So, this is your feed-forward network. Now, we go to the multi-head attention. So, as we mentioned earlier, you have your multi-head attention. This one initializes the K, Q, and V. Diba? If you remember earlier, we were showing and talking about the query, key, and values. Ayan, in-initialize na natin siya. We get the dimension by divide by the number of heads. And then you do the dot product. Diba? Earlier, we talked about the dot product. Query times key transpose, you scale that, you do your softmax, you do your matrix multiplication. No? So, itong code na to, yan na yun. No, this is your attention calculation. You get the query, you do a dot product of the key transpose, and then you divide by the square root of your dimension. And then, if there's masking, if it's a decoder, there's masking. If none, then you compute it using the softmax, and then you multiply that with the value. No? So, ito na ngayon yung attention mo. And then forward, basically, we'll just combine everything together. You compute the query key values using the multi-head attention. So the code down here will be the entire query key value, and then this code is basically just a combination of everything we've shown up there. Nilagay lang siya into one class, and then you have your multi-head attention. Ito yung nag-initialize ng variables. No? So you have your multi-head attention. Ito yung mga values niya. And then you will see the numbers here. No? So this is the implementation of the multi-head attention in terms of PyTorch. So, meron bang nag-run ng code? So, I just like to get an idea if we need to put some more time to for you to run. Nag-error. No error. So, kung naka-Gemini kayo, ang pinakamadali, just click on this. It will tell you, it will give you some indication how to fix the error. I actually have a more complete set of notebook. Di lang kasi nag-reply yung AI Makerspace. So, since this is live feed, PIP, if it's a PIP, then you are missing certain packages for that you need to install. Or maybe you have a different version of PyTorch. To. So, check nyo na lang yung installation. Usually, mga installation ng modules yan. Now, we have a more complete set of notebooks, which includes the pre-training, the inference itself, that would require you to have a Google Colab Pro because you will need access to A100. So the A100 is not available on the free account. You need to pay for the account to be able to access for the A100 and execute that. If there's anyone interested to go through that, let me know. I'll post my details later so that maybe we can have a different discussion of actually running the entire code. So that's essentially layer norms, attention heads, embeddings, positional encoding. Whew. We're almost there. Now we're on the last part, which is the token prediction. Diba? So remember, we've gone through here na. And then now we have yung mga layer norms na normalize na yung mga values of the key vectors. You get your attention score already. The next question is, how can you come up with the actual next word to predict? So the next word prediction is essentially, when you have the can't jump, what should be the next word that you want to predict? If we look at the visualization earlier, that is towards the end of the output, no? So dito na, yung nasa bottom part, no, where you already have your logits and then you want to generate the output. Ayan. So, if you look at the diagram here, no, the important part, the linear portion here is a projection layer so that you'll be able to project, di ba may values yan dito. The values here, the output here, you want to project that to your vocabulary size. No, so if for our vocabulary size is there's 10,000 words, ang trabaho ni linear is to convert that into 10,000 nodes so that you'll be able to operate it on 10,000 and then you'll be able to identify what should be the next word that we want to predict. Okay, so now we're using softmax. No? So the simplest way to explain this is that we are using softmax and not hardmax. If we use hardmax, basically what we're saying is that you get the maximum, the highest value, and that will be your next word. Yun yung hardmax, di ba? Argmax. You get the maximum in a vocabulary of 10,000, which has the highest value. That will be your next word. No, but we are not doing that. We are using softmax. With softmax, it's possible that you will get different. You have different possible words. Next word. No, so ayaw nating i-limit to only the top word. Gusto natin has some variation on the words that we want to produce. No? So, in this example, if you have this kind of operation, ang trabaho ni softmax is to convert all these numbers into a sum of numbers. So, ano na lang, siguro, the sum of all these numbers is equal to 1. No? So, if there's 10,000 of that, 10,000 words, the sum of all 10,000 will be equal to 1. So, that's the job of the softmax function, and then you can automatically get the highest value. That means most probably, most likely, this is the best word that you can produce. No, but because we are using softmax, we also have option to choose other words, yung next likely words, parang ganon. Okay, so now you have the softmax. How will you pick the next word? It turns out na you cannot just get the highest probable word. You need some level of surprise. No, so now the model performs better if there is certain level of unpredictability No? So, kaya nagkaroon ng temperature. When you call OpenAI API, you can indicate the temperature. No? A low temperature means you get the most predictable word. The high temperature means you'll get a different set of you have different options to choose from. So it's like ranking of some sorts po. Yes, it actually ranks. No, so 'di ba kanina you have all the attentions, paying all the attention, it come up with a set of numbers, no? And then in the end, you combine all those numbers, you'll get a list of the entire vocabulary, and then yun na, nandun yung pinakamataas, the rank with the most likely next word. So it considers more normalized output kapag hotter. Kapag hotter, it's more surprise, mas maraming option. High temperature, more surprise. If it's low temperature, for example, it's 0, you send it a query, that's the grid. That's the argmax. It will get always the maximum output. It will be consistent. If you give it a low temperature, it will play around with the different values. Okay? Hopefully that is clear. Yun. Ayan, tama. If you do the chat playground, di ba, you play with the temperature. Actually, hindi ko alam ano yung behavior ng temperature doon. Different models sometimes have different behavior, but essentially, it's both extreme. 0 can be more playful, 1 can be extreme. No? Now, there are different techniques to get the next word. There's what we call as the greedy, the top K, the top P, repetition penalty, and then there's another one more. No? So, if we see the word, the cat sat on the, and then you let that run through your large language models, you'll end up with a softmax values between something here. No? 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.5 yan. Diba? Sabi natin, if it's a softmax, the total is 1. Diba? So, total nito is 1. But, you cannot just get the maximum output. Kasi nga, you want some level of surprise. No? So, the greedy, that's the argmax. Basically, sinasabi natin, just get the highest. No? So, that means it will be predictable. It will always get the highest. You then have the option of doing the top K. When you say top K, in this case, top 3, di ba? Kukunin mo yung top 3 words. And then, from the top 3 words, you just pick a random data. No? So, it can be the cat sat on the chair. No? So, papasok na dito yung chair. You run your model again. Then you pick the top 3 again. No? So, mangyayari, it will be more creative. No? Because it combines all the different words. Take note that these predictions have been computed already. So, parang most likely, tama pa rin. Any of these words will make sense when you combine them with the previous with the previous sentence. Then we have the top P. The top P naman is a cumulative probability. So basically, you are just adding all the values here, and then so ito top 70%, no? So since cumulative values, you'll then get the 0.4 and then the 0.7. No? So dalawa yung choice mo. So and then there's repetition penalty. The repetition penalty is a way to avoid repetitive words, 'di ba? Kung yung previous word mo is the, kahit na mataas ang values niya, you remove that from the list. No, so it's just parang hard-coded rule. No, you do not want the same word occurring at the same time. Diba? So you give it a high penalty so that it doesn't repeat. No, kasi it's possible na you have a same word from the previous word na nag-appear tapos lumabas dun sa sa choices na ma-random. So you can remove that. The other way to search is what we call as the beam search. So the beam search essentially is ang ginagawa niya, it already moves forward, parang this is the next word, this is the next word, this is the next word. So it will already find the next most probable word, and then it will return you the complete set of those words already. No, so I think si Google ata ay nag-introduce nito. And then, they have discovered na if you actually explore all the different combinations, you can get a better answer. No? So yun yung purpose nung bean search. So the sequence is, you have three steps. At each step, you generate all the possible tokens. You get the top K, di ba? You get the top K, and then you compute again. And then i-add mo lahat yung mga probabilities nila, and then that's the possible answer. Other additional notes is that the same concept, itong next word prediction can be used for guardrails. No? So the guardrails is if you want to prevent the model from answering yung mga bad words, curse words, ganun. So pwede rin sinasama mo doon sa next token prediction so that it doesn't generate mga harmful or bad words or sentences. Okay? So we're almost there. We're almost done. We've gone through the entire transformer model. The next question is, okay, now we understand the transformer model, how it becomes smart. So, we'll not be able to go through that, but basically, ang ginagawa dyan is you have your pre-training, right? So basically, what you do is you collect a large set of data. So there are a lot of data sets available online. And I also don't think any of us will be able to do pre-training. Sabi nga, di ba, si DeepSeek cost $6 million. Murang-mura daw. $6 million to run your own, to pre-train your own model. So, but in theory, this is how it's being done. No? You get a list of words. I think the most of the popularly used is already here. No? So the common crawl kasi, it's 250 petabytes. It basically contains all the words, I guess all the documents in the internet. But this is dirty. No? So they clean it up. There's the C4, which is 236 gig, a cleaned up data set already of all the possible combinations. So what you do is that you can feed this to your transformer model. You'll come up with a pre-trained model. No? So marami pa. You can crawl Wikipedia or other materials. Or if you're OpenAI, pwede mo ring i-crawl si Wall Street Journal, no? Para mademanda ka. Ayan. So, it's now a matter of creating your own pre-trained model. And then, there is what we call as post-training. No? So, the pre-trained model, basically, that's like, your base knowledge already. But, it doesn't really perform well as is. No? Kasi all it does is predicting the next word. The next thing you need to do is, you have to fine-tune it. No, the most popular is what we call as instruction tuned kasi it follows instruction. No, meron ding pang chat, meron ding pang translation. So may mga iba't ibang klaseng tuning na pwedeng gawin so that the model becomes more specialized in doing these things. No, so there's fine tuning, alignment. One word about alignment is that I think this is the one na differentiates OpenAI or Claude from Gemini. No, their models are more aligned to human preferences. No, so parang mas design pag si Claude yung message niyo medyo mas short and precise yung answer niya, no, because they've aligned it to behave that way. No, distillation naman, this is what DeepSeek did. No, they distilled the model basically from a larger model, you distill it to a smaller model. So now you have say 90% of the intelligence of the large model, but your model size is very slow, meaning it's highly efficient. Then you can do model merging. So kung may dalawa kang 2 or 3 na mga distilled model, pwede mo silang i-combine together. So these are the steps that are being done if you want to train your own model, the pre-training and post-training. Now this is the Shoggoth. It's a popular meme. If you are in AI, you have seen this already before. But basically, what this is saying, you have unsupervised. This is what we see. No? When you chat OpenAI, ito na yung nakikita mo, something very cute and nice. No? But behind the scenes, there's one big monster behind the scenes. And these are highly disorganized, chaotic set of data that are being fine-tuned, so that at least it now has some facial features, and then you give it some reinforcement from human feedback, So now you get a model that behaves very similar to human. No, so this large shogot here, scary animal here, dito nangyayari yung pre-training. You just feed everything, it's as large as possible, and then yung post-training, dito nangyayari. The alignment, the distillation, it happens in supervised fine-tuning and RLHF. So hopefully that gives you some more intuition. No? So we now move to what is supervised fine-tuning. No? So when you have a pre-trained model, di ba kanina, we have a pre-trained model, you do the pre-training, you already have the output. You want to do a specialized function. The specialized function, what you do is you have a labeled dataset, and then you fine-tune this, no? You let this run so that this trained model will be updated to perform better and come up with a specialized model. In this case, when you do supervised fine-tuning, what happens is that it memorizes everything. Ano yung nilagay mo dito, you feed it there, this one will remember everything. The other way to do it is what we call as reinforcement learning. So with reinforcement learning, you have a pre-trained model. There is no dataset. There is no labeled dataset. Instead, you have an environment. So in this case, it's a picture of the Go game, diba? Yung AlphaGo. So si AlphaGo is developed using reinforcement learning. Basically, what it did is that it just keeps on playing on an environment. No, the environment has the rules. No, the environment is the rules. If you move diagonally, you will be eaten. If all your pieces disappear, you lose, diba? So the environment will define what the rules are. And then, you let the pre-trained model play. So, magpe-play siya, you perform an action, the environment will tell what will happen, you then give it a policy. The policy will either give a reward or give a penalty or whatever. Right? So, pag binigyan mo ngayon ng reward, the pre-trained model will realize, okay, I should not do that. No? Let's try a different move. Okay, I should not do that. And then another move, oh, this is good, I got a big score. No? And then, you let it keep on playing lang. No, until maybe the performance plateaued already. No, so you keep on playing, it discovers the rule on its own. So this is different from supervised fine-tuning. So the interesting part is that DeepSeek uses reinforcement learning. Prior to DeepSeek kasi, there are several way to fine-tune. No, meron din namang reinforcement learning from human feedback, meron ding reinforcement learning from AI, there's supervised fine-tuning. Marami. There are different ways to fine-tune. But I guess one of the parang discoveries ng R1 is that if you use reinforcement learning, you let the model learn on its own, it can generalize. It can learn, the R1 is the reasoning model, di ba? It can reason. And if you are curious how it learned to reason by coding. So what they did is that they built an environment for code forces. Di ba yung code forces, mga lit code where you can write all your codes. It has very clear test criteria whether it will pass or fail. Di ba? So then you let the AI take its action, give it a reward or give it a penalty whether the program works or not. No, so in this process, it learned how to code. After it learned to code, turns out that whatever it learned while, it's figuring to code can be generalized. So yung logic na natutunan niya while writing the code can be applied outside of programming. It can be applied outside in normal reasoning na. Hindi na kailangan, Python code yung gamitin. No? So that's the beauty of reinforcement learning. And that's one of the discoveries ng DeepSeek R1. There's several other, but ito lang yung medyo aligned to our discussion. So I just included this interesting fact about how DeepSeek use reinforcement learning. All right, so that ends my presentation. I hope you did not get bored. Thank you for everyone who stayed. Anyway, dito sa slide, I am on a mission I'm trying to put up a team or at least group, establish a group of enthusiasts, AI enthusiasts who are interested in this kind of topics so that you'll be able to learn, you'll be able to share, you'll be able to write code. And if you are looking for projects or opportunities to make money while learning, pwede rin. I think if I'm still trying to look for this for this community. Wait, let me turn on my video para makita nyo rin. Wait. Okay, not allowed. Anyway, to have a group of people. I think if we are able to group, big enough, we will be able to get projects. We will be able to showcase what our capabilities are. Right now, as I mentioned, I'm a board director of PSIA. A lot of our member companies are focused more in integrating AI. I'm thinking more of not necessarily building our own pre-trained model, but more foundational type of work, so that mas naintindihan natin how to improve, how to fine-tune several models. No? So for those who are interested, please link up with me. Nandito ang aking LinkedIn profile, and let me know. Right? For those who either want to learn, okay lang po kung newbie, or kung gusto niyo lang matuto, or kung gusto niyo ng project or experiments, testing, exploration, whatever, please link up with me. Yun, no? I'm looking for people who can do this. Who knows, baka magkaroon tayo ng tunay na project. Actually, I have several inquiries already for actual projects. So maybe, we can work together.
Sir Alan, question.
Yes po. Sige.
Yeah. Ano yung what are we hoping to achieve in terms of developing an application? What type of applications are we considering?
Well, anything that involves Gen AI, large language models, pwedeng voice, pwedeng audio, pwedeng image. Hindi ako familiar masyado sa video. And then, pwedeng text din. I think the most common now are into text, mga document processing. But then, there are many other techniques how to improve on that. I actually have a team already, but I'm exploring. Kasi kung meron mga may hilig, tingin ko kasi daig ng mahilig yung mga matalino. If you really enjoy doing this, you'll be able to figure out different ways of solving the problem. Pero walang specific na use case kung yun yung tanong.
Parang low level siya, hindi naman.
In the end, it has to be a usable product, syempre. Pero hindi siya academic na na paper lang. No? So there will be actual coding, there will be something usable na result.
Pero not necessarily na involves pre-training mga
Meron. May fine-tuning. Probably not pre-training. I don't think we are in any position to do our own. So
Yeah.
we will get pre-trained model, and then we will fine-tune on certain corpus, certain corpora. We can do distillation. We can build reasoning models. Ganun.
Yeah, I have seen one interesting YouTube video na ni-clone yung DeepSeek R0. Tiny Zero yung pangalan ng clone.
Yeah.
Nagastos lang daw is $30.
Oo nga eh. I saw that too. Oo. I think University of Washington ba yun? Yun.
Is that
So,
one of the
if
things that
there's
your
any
company-
interest, ano yun?
Yeah, sorry.
So if there's any interest along those lines, 'di ba? So what you can do, you can explore, then we can have a discussion. I can look for use cases. As I mentioned earlier, I'm part of AI Makerspace. So minsan naghahanap din sila ng mga AI engineers. So pwede rin tayo kumuha sa project. At the same time, I have a company, I have a startup. No? So may mga network din naman ako. Pwede nating i-pitch din sa mga potential clients. But at the very least, kung lahat tayo natututo, pwede na rin. Di ba? We expand our knowledge on AI. Feeling ko lang kasi parang wala masyadong community na um, on that level. Or maybe I'm wrong. Baka may alam kayo.
Meron
Pero
yata
yun po.
pero hindi gaanong active sa ano ko. I'm not sure kung
Oo nga.
yung AI Philippines also into that.
Yeah, kasi nagka-work na sila sino ba to? Si Army. Ayun, so at least, kung may mga hobbies lang ba, libang-libang, di ba? Yun, so kung gusto niyo pong mag-connect, ito po, yung aking LinkedIn, dyan na lang po kayo mag-message sa akin. May mga question pa dito. Interesting projects. Ayan po, so connect lang po kayo. We can, or if you want, you can, we can discuss it here. We have 10 more minutes for discussion. Kaya naman palang tapusin in less than 2 hours. Akala ko hindi. Last question from Alpha. When would be best to train your own transformer model from scratch versus fine-tuning? To be honest, I think fine-tuning lang. Kasi nga, if you want to pre-train, the cheapest is $6 million. Pag kinonvert mo yan sa peso, napakadaming zero niyan. I think the only reason you want to do that is that if you want to have full control on the training data. But then again, like, if you trust for example, ayaw mo ng DeepSeek kasi galing China, hindi yung Llama model, that's from Facebook Meta. No? Posible naman. No? So, if you follow me do sa mga LinkedIn ko, I think I have a post there to create our own sovereign AI sa Philippines. No? So, may mga hindi rin agree because it's costly. We can probably just use existing models. They could probably write, or maybe we really need our own. Hindi pa clear yan kung ano yung pwedeng gawin. But at the very least, what we can do is to fine-tune. Di ba? You get an existing model, you add all Filipino corpus, Filipino corpora, Filipino culture, then you can have an AI na mas aligned to how we think, yung culture natin, how we work, how we talk, di ba? Parang ganun. How to connect, dito na po sa LinkedIn. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one last question. Yeah, you're talking about fine tuning an AI, no?
Yes.
And then we are going to have our own data set based on our culture.
Yes.
And can we not, let's say, we have, okay, we have a resource, let's say from Wikipedia. Why not just use an AI to connect to our own Wikipedia type of solution, meaning we have um, a resource that's housed on web rather than
Pwede.
train an LLM for that one. We just have,
Okay, yung RAG. Okay. Okay. You mean yung RAG, where you do the retrieval, no? So,
yeah, that's right.
um, okay. So, there, uh, I wonder if ang dami ko kasing material, but the purpose of RAG is that it adds intelligence, di ba? It retrieves the information. So, it increases the accuracy of your model. Wait lang. Hopefully, I can find it somewhere here. Wala. Now, the problem with RAG is that what it is addressing is the accuracy of your model. Of your response. Diba? You retrieve information and then you include that in your context, you give it a result. So it improves the accuracy, but it doesn't improve the performance. No, you have to send all these tokens, all these related tokens to your model. No, so it's also costlier. no? So more compute is being spent. When you fine-tune the model, all those information are being sent directly into the weights. Ina-update mo na yung mga weights. It now becomes part of the knowledge of your model. So now, you do not need to do this query. You just chat the AI. It's aligned already to yung knowledge na binigay mo sa kanya. So the goal of fine-tuning is to improve efficiency naman. Compute of efficiency.
It can be done because there are some models that have what you call this, longer context window, if
Oo.
I miss.
Cost yung issue mo dun because usually you pay per token, di ba? So if you send it a million token, like Gemini has 1 million token, you send the entire 1 million token, you're paying times 1 million. If you fine tune it, wala na, it's zero. It's already built into there. Hindi ko mahanap yun. Ang dami ko na kasing slides.
And we don't have that what you call this group that's funded by our government
I think we
to
should.
at least fine tune.
Yeah, I guess that's one discussion. Si AAP reached out to me for possible discussion. Dapat niyan yung, but there's from DTI, CARE, Center for AI Research, maybe they want to look into that. Who is headed by Erica Lagare, na professor ko sa AIM. So, I should reach out to her also. Dapat government funded din. Tsaka dapat publicly available, di ba?
Yeah.
In fact, the easiest is just to publish. Kasi, Nick, if you look at yung sa Hugging Face, no? If you search for Tagalog or Filipino na dataset, wala kang makikita eh. It can be as simple as, publishing datasets. And then let Gemini or OpenAI crawl that and learn that. It can be just, simple as that. Of course, better if we have our own model, di ba? Anything else? Questions? Sana may natutunan kayo. Alam ko napaka-theoretical, napaka-technical. Yun talaga yung design ng topic na yun. Marami rin naman mga topics na more on the application side. Yan. So, to answer lang yung question ni Sir June, ito yung idea ng fine-tuning. No? So, share screen na ako. Yan. So you can see there's prompt engineering, di ba? So prompt engineering, it can only do so much. If you want to increase your accuracy, you do RAG. No? You include all the content inside. And then, so okay lang naman. No? So ang recommendation is, of course, you start with prompt engineering when that works. If doesn't work, you do a RAG. No? Then, pag okay na, and then marami ng, say, useful na siya, you can look into fine-tuning so that you then work on the optimizing your models. Yeah. Tanong pa. We have a few more minutes left.
Sir Alan, so possible, maybe it's also possible that we are going to prepare the data set. Let's say, meron
Tama.
tayong data set. Load muna. We are going to load it to vector database. We ingest it to vector database while we wait for the uh, capability for us to have a fine-tuned model.
I think dataset lang muna, publish that in Hugging Face. Yung RAG kasi siya eh. Napakalaki na ng corpus mo. Expensive siya eh. It will do all those queries. So I wouldn't advise na mag-RAG on a large corpus. Unless, so usually ginagamit lang yung RAG kung highly specialized. Kasi siguro kung halimbawa company, di ba? Globe, lahat ng private documents nila, okay lang. But if we talk of the entire country as a Philippines, hindi dapat RAG. Ayan, si Alpha, meron daw RAG FT, not familiar. I don't know what. I can take a look at this. Thank you. Okay. So, I think that's it. Again, guys, add me on LinkedIn na lang kung may mga interesado sa inyo. Mag-aral, magka-project, anything else. Maraming salamat. Thank you for staying for the last 2 hours. Kata, anything you want? Say?
Oh, thank you so much, sir. And before we end, I'd like to give you this certificate.
Certificate? Diba? Ayaw magpakita. Okay na yan, send mo na lang.
Ang dami kasing,
Repost mo.
yes sir, sige, send ko na lang.
Ang ganap.
Same lang naman po yun.
Anyway, yun.
And,
Thank you for
opo, thank you
helping
so
me
much,
organize.
sir.
Ayan, si Kata po ang tumulong sa akin para ma-organize to. Of course, Data Engineering Pilipinas, salamat sa community. At least meron akong
Yes, sir.
avenue makapag-geek out. Ayun lang. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. In behalf of Sir
Bye.
Mike and the volunteers
Oo nga,
po.
wala Sir
And sa
Mike,
inyo,
no?
sa mga participants po. Thank you so much, Sir Alan.
Right.
Sa susunod po
Bye-bye.
ulit. Thank you
Sige
po.
lang,
Thanks,
sige lang.
everyone.
Bye.
Salamat po.